see the different bacteria. The green ones are the good ones, and the red ones are the bad ones. And in your GI tract, all the way down, there's the balancing that all of us have to deal with every day between the good and the bad, and they need to be in balance. You can't have too much good, but you know the bad ones always try to be too much of them. And that's where you have stomach problems. That's why I tell my staff, every day you must check your poop, your stool. It has to be a number 3. If it's not a number 3, something isn't right. And that is really about managing that overall GI. Okay? So let's look below type of feeding. Breastfeeding or formula feeding provides a different set of bacteria to the microbiome. And so all of these things are affecting the precipitation of autism. Not for everybody, but if you look at the numbers that we just talked about before, the increase in the last 20 years is significant. In the first couple of months, if you give antibiotics, or if you give probiotics, or the mother is taking probiotics and feeding the baby, you see the GI opportunities that are being affected. So not everything is in here. The other things that are not on this sheet is vaccination. I didn't share the list of that. But so what we're going to be talking about is really about interventions. I wanted to lay the groundwork that for all chronic illnesses, at the core of it is our metabolic architecture, right? Which looks at immunity, inflammation, our GI structure, cell communications, mitochondrial function and energy. All of that causes what we were saying looking at earlier on called neuroinflammation, which is what really is the expression of autism. Okay, so any questions before we talk about interventions? Yeah.
What's the third?
The third?
Is that diarrhea? Yeah.
No, it's not.
Where you said look every day.
Oh, the Bristol stool chart.
Yeah.
Yes.
You should check that. Number 3 means it's soft, consistent stool.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just Google that. You should
I
have
never
that in
heard
your
that
bathroom.
before, so.
Yes.
Oh, you do? A poster?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you poo, don't flush. Stand up.
Okay.
Look at
Look
the
at it,
poo
yeah.
and check on the chart.
Chart.
After all, it's your poo.
Good.
You
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
You can check other people's poop if you want.
I should
Yeah, I have questions for my wife all the
No,
time, and I tell her,
stop.
yeah, it's like, what does this mean? Okay.
You know, just while we're on poo, autistic children have really smell foul poo.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Very foul poo. And it's really because of this
Yeah.
coordinated
Always
GI.
or when they're baby?
True, in expression. Let the doctor who sees them talk to us.
Yes. All the time.
They always smell.
Always.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They always smell. I was always curious because in the hospital, they tend to clean the breast before they breastfeed. And I never was sure that was a good thing for a couple of reasons. One is it's the bacteria that they're taking off might be really good and they should be getting it. And 2, there's a lot of information lately about not just breastfeeding, but what's the mother eating that's getting to the breastfeeding. And there's been some research that a lot of, if you're on a high carbohydrate, you're missing some vitamins, if you're having a lot of polyunsaturated, even before you get pregnant, it affects the baby.
Wow.
Which is amazing.
And so before you guys came, we were talking about it that we recommend that women who want to get pregnant, for about 6 months they stop birth control and really get on their diets and really get on their supplements and vitamins to meet RDA requirements so their nutrient architecture is ready for the baby.
Yeah.
Very important.
So
And you know in America nobody's doing that.
No.
They just meet, first date, get married, have a baby. My baby's autistic. What happened?
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Walsh, cure my baby.
Yeah. That had to be.
And so, because of all these compounding stressors, we call them stressors. Can I have some water, please? Because of these compounding stressors, there's been a lot of talk that it's vaccinations. That's true. Vaccinations are contributing because these children already have a genetic vulnerability for those toxins that have been included in vaccines to make them safe. Okay? All of us
So
take
it
those
isn't
vaccines and
necessarily-
we are fine.
So it isn't necessarily the vaccination, it's the child is susceptible.
For example, if I invited you for dinner and you had a running stomach, it's not because I served a bad meal.
Right.
It's because you're susceptible to the
Yes.
level of bacteria that was present in the meal.
Yes, okay.
That's what it says.
Yes.
Unless everybody gets sick.
Does that make sense?
Yes, does make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't mean I was trying to poison you.
Yeah.
Because we all ate the same food.
Yes.
But
exactly.
your stool was number
Okay.
7. And Dr. Walsh was number 6. And I was number 3.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you see that? Because we all genetically, when we came, and the way we've lived and the influences we have a different microbiome architecture. And for somebody like me who takes probiotics every day, I have a very healthy and I check my poop. Even this morning I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, because that is really the source. Go ahead, Dr. Wall.
You can also take a picture of it in case you want to bring it in. The curious thing I've seen lately is, I was doing some research in it. A lot of times you have that bacteria at birth, it never goes away. You know, antibiotics, whatever, there's still a base at the bottom, which is this bacteria. It could be good, could be bad, but it doesn't go away no matter what you do to it.
Yeah. So Dr. Walsh is right. That architecture that we inherit, the bacterial diversity that we inherit, actually stays very the same. It almost is our signature, right? And,
Like a DNA.
and that's why for some of us, when we eat something strange, we're like, oh, that doesn't work for me. Because, it violates your diversity.
Yeah.
You see the point? Like, and for example, we are not supposed to be allergic.
Yeah.
Allergy is lack of a structural good diversity. Yeah, nobody should be allergic. Why should you be allergic? Everything God created was good for us.
Yeah, it shouldn't get through the intestine. Those antigens should stop in your intestine and not get into your bloodstream.
Correct.
But if they do,
Correct. And then, as typical, Dr. Walsh opens up the big issue about leaky gut, which is at the source of chronic illness. So, and really, for most of us who are eating strange things that are processed, and gluten is the big guilty one, unfortunately. I come from Africa where we didn't grow wheat. You know, now we travel the world and eat things that we were not supposed to eat. Because we're all born in places to eat the things that grew in those places. Then now, modernization, we now grow things here and ship there because we think we're really smart, right? And then now we're all sick because it doesn't work. Well, but the point I was trying to make was that leaky gut really comes from eating a lot of processed food, right? We eat a lot of different things, and it leads to a breakdown in immunity and inflammation. And that is really at the source of all chronic illness. And so our key interventions, let me then step into that space to talk about intervention. There's a paper that I'm going to share with you guys. There's a paper I'm going to share with you guys. It's actually written by what we call the father of functional medicine. And it looks at, it's okay, later on we can come in. And it looks at what are the key areas of dysfunction for autism. I'm going to share this paper with you and you guys can take with you. I think that's a good idea. I should take my jacket off too. So the number one genetic polymorphism, a polymorphism, it's a predisposition, it's a vulnerability, or it's what they call a susceptibility. It's a mutation. I hope we're communicating right.
Mhm.
Are you good?
Yes.
Okay, we're good. The first one is the impaired glutathione metabolism. So this reduces the ability to biotransform toxicants such as toxic metals, xenobiotics, solvents, pesticides, herbicides, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Point mutations in the G coding for glutathione S-transferase enzymes have been associated with increased risk for autism. Glutathione is a supplement that we carry. It is a fundamental requirement for all of us to manage the issues of oxidative stress and inflammation. Have you ever heard of this before?
Oxidative stress?
Yeah, or glutathione.
No.
I know.
Are you saying that's in your body or something you take?
We have, but normally we don't have enough because of the stress.
Oh. And we should
Some
have.
things we eat break it down fast.
Yeah.
How do
Because
you
of-
get that in your body then?
We have supplements for it. You should
So-
take extra because you're being compounded by all these things. When you lived in the village on the mountain where everything was perfect, you were not being bombarded by hydrocarbons and right?
Yes.
But now that you're bombarded by them, you're running low on your glutathione architecture. So you're vulnerable.
Yeah, it's almost every single metabolic activity in the liver is glutathione dependent.
Really?
Yeah, it's a very important thing.
It's so critical
Especially,
for all of us.
yeah, mercury these days especially.
The mercury, you know, we tested some of our patients, their urine for toxicity.
Yeah.
And these are people who eat vegetables, and they come on high on a lot of toxic because of the fracking and all of that.
It's in the water.
Cesium, yeah, it's in the water. So the water, yeah, it's in the water. So that was number one, glutathione. Don't panic, there's more coming.
I wish there was only one.
So we go into the next thing that is a big issue for all of us, impaired methylation. So let's talk, how many people here have done their genetic sequencing? Okay. So most people would have this mutation, the Mthfr mutation, which is the B12 mutation. So let's just talk about that. The Mthfr is the enzyme involved in the final methylation step of folic acid, producing blah, blah, blah. Impairment of this enzyme usually results in an elevated homocysteine, which is actually how we know you have this impairment. When we run your blood, we'll see an elevated homocysteine. No, not done yet. Homocysteine is required to recycle it back to metathione. However, in autistic children, increased oxidative stress, we talked before about the stress, the environment stress, the stress of life, the stress of GI, the stress of parents, all that stress.
Maybe number 7 poop.
Yes, results in shunting of homocysteine to provide cysteine for glutathione production, resulting in low levels of homocysteine. James demonstrated that treating ASD children with methyl donors, including B12, folic acid, trimethylglycine, normalized glutathione and homocysteine levels. This patient had a series of genetic predispositions and insults that led to accumulation of toxins and increased oxidative stress, triggering the vicious cycle of impaired methylation and glutathione production. Most doctors, including Dr. Walsh, have not been treating their patients this way, right, Dr. Walsh?
Right. Some cardiologists lately have been checking homocysteine levels, but they're unusual. Most of them don't even check that anymore. And I think part of the problem is it's asymptomatic. You don't feel symptoms.
Yeah, there are no symptoms. I mean, you just see it in the blood.
Sure.
And it's causing all this internal stress and inflammation. Because, when we begin to look at chronic illness, the distress takes 10, 15, 20 years before the symptoms show up.
Yeah.
That's even with cancer. We all have cancer cells every day in our body. It's just that our immune system is killing them. But when they start accumulating, there are no signs until it shows up one day. And then we go and then we start all these interventions that are very, very catastrophic.
Very stressful.
Very stressful again on the system.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
You understand?
Mhm.
And I know Dr. Walsh is in treatment.
Yes.
And he's an example of just the big fight, right, that it takes to win, right? So now let's talk about the one that we love, allergies, right? At elevated IG, anti-gliadin antibodies indicate an autoimmune response to gluten, right?
Yes.
Because we also do the antigen test here, the allergy test, to find out how you're doing. Typically, our intervention here starts with fixing your GI. That's what we think is the biggest issue with almost every American, because you all eat a bad diet, and that is a fact.
Yes.
It's not whether we dispute it or not.
Yeah.
The diet is bad. Too much sugar. The carbs are horrible. The fats are disgusting. None of it is, even the protein, we're not really sure what has happened to the protein architectures, right? Then we do things like microwave them, and we don't even cook them well, or we eat them raw, right? It could just become crazy if you start looking at it. If you go back to the traditional cultures, everything was a big pot of soup that boiled for days, right? Proper cooking.
Just interesting thing with that is that the person who discovered that meat tasted bad the way we were manufacturing it was autistic.
Exactly.
She figured out if the cows were behind each other, just one after another, they had no problem going through the slaughterhouse. But if it was just one big herd, and they heard the other cows screaming, everything, it wasn't just getting the meat out, it tasted bad when they got it.
Exactly.
Wow.
Have to smell it. Can you smell it? It's amazing.
But she was, named Grundy or something, but she was autistic, full-fledged autistic, and everybody knew it. But she designed the gates to lead the cattle up to the chute and all that.
Wow.
Interesting.
So the cows that didn't make it were like sent to the other queue. Go to the Vincent line.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is the line for cows. And then we charge them more for that line.
Yeah, that's right.
That's organic beef. The rest is for you guys.
Yeah.
This is the $1 beef. And then the line forms for the $1 beef.
That's funny,
Right.
except, it's funny since we already have that, you can go across the street here.
Alright. Yeah, we go to Costco, the $1 beef line is for sale, and everybody falls in line. Okay, so let's talk about the digestive function. So they do stool analysis, cultured 3 species of yeast, and a deficiency of beneficial flora. So we addressed that. One of our big recommendations here is to take a prebiotic and a probiotic. Or either get a prebiotic diet, which is a diet that is composed of fiber, digestible fiber. The body needs it. That's why people don't recommend that you take smoothies. You should actually eat fruit that has fiber.
Yeah.
Okay, broken down fruit is not the same as a real fruit. Yes, because the fiber is really the most important part there. Plus the other things that you get, but that fiber is very important, and most Americans don't eat fiber.
Yeah.
Until they're very old, then they start putting that fiber thing.
Not very old.
They're like type 1.
What?
Because they're like type 1 on the stool
Yeah.
chart, right?
Exactly. Oh, you've been watching that. Do you understand? Until you're dead before you think, oh, I need fiber. No, you need fiber every day. And then there are elevated stool markers in intestinal inflammation consistent with allergy, infection, or inflammatory bowel disease. So if you look at Crohn's disease, all these stool diseases, it's all GI leaky gut issues.
Yeah.
All of them.
That's pretty much proven. I mean, the IgG is a big molecule that shouldn't be in your intestine, but it's there.
Exactly. And then they look at the urinary organic acids, revealed a very high level of D-lactate, an indicator of overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestines, resulting in intestinal fermentation of carbohydrates,
Yeah.
SIBO, and all of the things surrounding that.
Yeah.
So these autism children have deep complications,
Yeah.
Yes.
and all of it is biomedical.
And they don't control their diet. Their parents do.
Well, because they allow the children, because of behavior, to eat whatever they want.
Yeah.
Because the children hardly eat anyway.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if the child is going to eat only fries, they just let the child eat
Yeah.
fries.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if the child is not eating anything else, what are you going to do?
Well,
So the
Yeah.
parents are just surviving. There is no answer for them.
Because the texture of the food also affects them.
Yeah.
And the smell and everything. Yes. For example, the woman the other day was saying the child will not eat anything liquid or soup.
Yeah.
Only the food has to be high. You know, so then urinary peptide analysis revealed very high IAG, creatinine. This metabolite derived from dysbiotic bacterial metabolism and deltophins, and these are neuroactive peptides which disrupt cognitive function and have been associated with autism spectrum disorder. These are all gut things. We have a slide here that shows the gut-brain connection, because really the brain is really managed from here. Even though we think this manages this.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
this gut-brain issue
Yeah.
is really about the gut. So if you fix this, which is the overall alternative therapy strategy, if you fix this, you will fix that. That is really at the core of this intervention for autism. So you focus on fixing this to fix that, and plus the therapy to then support them. So they looked again also at nutritional deficiencies. This is a very long list. Low amino acids. There were significant mineral deficiencies: zinc, magnesium, manganese. The other day I asked somebody what was manganese. They said it's a country in Africa. I love America. It's not a country in Africa. It sounds like a country in Africa, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And then we have impaired methylation. We talked about that. Significant vitamin A and D deficiencies. Do you take vitamin D?
Yes.
And A? You take K? You take B?
Multi.
You take omega? Walsh, Dr. Walsh, can you make sure they visit us before they leave town?
Yeah.
Then essential fatty acid deficiencies, right, which is the big one for all of us. So let's talk about a couple of things here. So the two things, and then we'll talk about an example of how they treated, or they're treating these patients in the clinic in where he works. I'll just check again. What's that clinic called where he works? In the Cleveland Clinic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So mitochondrial dysfunction and oxidative stress. Organic acid analysis revealed widespread impairment in fatty acid, carbohydrate, and citric acid metabolism. This is deep stuff. Elevated seborrheic indicated impaired fatty acid transport into the mitochondria from carnitine deficiency.
Yeah.
Very elevated lactic acid, creatinine indicating cellular acidosis, and coenzyme Q10 deficiency. You take CoQ10,
The tumor.
very important for mitochondrial function.
Turmeric is CoQ10?
No, you can take CoQ10 with tumor. It's a separate thing now.
Okay. And then markers of impaired sulfur, glutathione status, and urinary organic acids. Okay? Elevated urinary porphyrins indicate enzymatic disruption of normal metabolism for heavy metals, which has been documented in autism. So the way we really treat this when we're working with the GI is that we either do a detox, because a lot of the neat metals get stored in the fat, in the adipose fat, and they get locked in there. So it's very, very difficult and challenging to release the toxins.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you release the toxins, people actually get ill. So you have to release the toxins very, very slowly.
And always with something that binds it.
Okay, can you listen to Dr. Walsh? Dr. Walsh, go ahead.
For example, if you have if you had a caddy and they put in an amalgam, that's got mercury in it. It might say silver, but it's actually mercury in there too. And if you're going to take those out, which is a good idea, you should be eating something at the same time that binds it once it gets out of the
Exactly. So we do chelation and things
Yeah.
like that, but we also have a detox
Yeah.
that you can do every 3 months, or we have some supplements that Metalloclear that you can take every day, and it slowly detoxifies.
I
It's
think
a
even though
very
you take every day because you get exposed every day.
Yes.
Even if you get it out, you're going to get back in the next day.
Exactly. That's why we say you do the detox every 3 months, and you also take that daily Metalloclear, just
Yeah.
because you drive in the freeway,
Yeah.
you're taking all of that metal into your system.
Drink a glass of water.
Yeah. Okay, and then toxicity and impaired detox. So the 3-step process before I start the weight loss class. I hope you're going to join us for the weight loss class.
This is good to have I like the Metalloclear before the weight loss. That's what I see. People lose weight and all of a sudden they get sick.
No, we actually try to do the detox as part of our weight loss process.
Yeah, that's a good
And we're
idea.
going to talk about it. Yes, it's a very important part, because that's the reason why people don't lose weight
Yeah.
properly when they diet, because the lack of the detox, and the detox done properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So toxicity and impaired detoxification. So the child had elevated red blood cell, aluminum, and lead. So that's something we'll find from the blood and the urinalysis.
Yeah.
Elevated hair, antimony, and arsenic. We also do hair analysis.
Must be hard.
But low levels of mercury because of impaired ability to excrete mercury,
Yeah.
right?
That's your liver. No glutathione.
Exactly. Markers of impaired sulfur and that, so we've talked about that. So we actually take a 3-step process. The first one is to correct digestive imbalances and remove food allergies and sensitivities. And we go through our overall detox process, which really repopulates your entire GI system. And we do that by removing certain foods, rebalance, and then reintroduce those foods back in, so that your system can actually recover and have the correct diversity for pathogens in your system. That's very important. Also, the lining of the GI, the lumen, is 1 cell thick. And therefore, there is a reason your mother said chew your food for a long time before you swallow.
Yeah.
So when you're swallowing food that has not been well masticated, you're sending food down that damages the lining, and also the stomach and the acids cannot deal with it.
Yeah, it's too much.
Actually, in Buddhism, they tell you that for every spoon of rice, you should chew it 100 times.
So no rice.
Then you wouldn't need the second spoon.
I've heard 32, always heard 32 chews, and that's hard.
I know.
It's already going down, you know.
Yeah, it's all liquid by then. Do you see the
100,
point?
yeah.
And that's why they say if you add each spoon of rice 32 times, You might not need a second spoon.
You know, you're like, what took forever?
Right? And so we do that, and then the second step is that we correct nutritional deficiencies and optimize nutritional status. So this is the biggest challenge a lot of people have, is that they think they're eating well. So let's talk about what eating well is. We're going to talk about it during the weight class. So the way we address it is that there is, actually we have a body composition machine that analyzes your overall body and tells you structurally what's going on in your body. And for each of us, based on our basal metabolism and our activity metabolism, and from our blood samples, we get a sense of where your nutritional status is, both in your blood and at the cellular level. So we do both. The blood that they run in the hospital gives you only what's in your blood. They do not do what we do, which is the intracellular analysis. Because a lot of us suffer from malabsorption across the cellular wall. So even though we take all the nutrients we need, we still don't absorb. So there are three problems. One is, are we taking all the nutrients we need? And when I'm teaching this class, I always go back to the issue that there's a difference between calories and nutrients. You know, when Americans eat, they're eating calories mostly, not nutrients. Nutrients have been specified by the FDA and the NIH. It's called the required daily amount. And manganese is there. And I know they don't teach that in high school in America.
No.
Right. That's why most people don't know what manganese is, except you did chemistry.
Yeah,
Right.
It's pink when you put it in a flame.
Exactly,
Wow.
pink, exactly. So the RDA, so we use the RDA here in setting what your base level for nutrients should be. We have an F0, which is the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Then we have an F1, where we define that full range of minerals, vitamins, and trace elements that are required daily. They call it the RDA. It's not optional. And you cannot overdose rarely on supplements. I know Americans worry about that a lot. What if I took too much? Supplements are not medication, right, Dr. Walsh?
Can be.
Says they can be.
But very rarely.
Yeah, only like A, D, E, and K, you gotta watch out sometimes.
Exactly. But also because of malabsorption, most of us are not even absorbing enough, right?
Just a quick comment is I realized the guy at the Cleveland Clinic, I know him, I talked to him for a long time.
Oh, no.
And I think he just came out with a book, like The Broken Brain or something.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to talk to the guy because it really works, just diet alone. Changed his entire life. No medication at all. He'd been on medications, it didn't work. So if you meet someone like that who changed their whole life, is now a world-class teacher, it was just fading out the way it was before.
And that's what we are practicing here. That if we focus on diet, and if you fix your gut, and you focus on your diet, you actually correct a lot of things.
Yeah.
The challenge also is an emerging understanding of what we're calling metabolic memory. It's going to take time. Because some people want to lose weight. So you've punished your body for 40 years. Then you say, why is it not working in 1 month?
Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense.
Yeah, so it's going to take time for your body, because now when I introduce new nutrients to my body is like, what is this? We haven't seen this since 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Excrete it. We don't need it. We are used to a different pathway.
No, that'd be number 2.
Number 2.
Yeah, do you see the point? Excrete it. We have a
get it
different pathway for dealing with this low glutathione issue. Why are you giving us some new? The next day, he took it again. All right, let's test a little bit of this. Do you see? So it takes time, like with my tennis strokes, to get that forehand
That much time.
consistent. Yeah, more than 10 years. After all, Serena was training from when she was 4 years old,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And won Wimbledon at 18, right?
Yeah.
That's how long it
Oh, yeah.
takes,
It's amazing.
right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with our GI. It takes time to really repair and get it right for you, because each of us is really different
Yeah.
from our genetic, from our environment, from all of that. So you need to find what is really right for you and then work on it. And then the last one is to enhance detoxification. We spoke about that before. So think about this. There are three things. You have to correct the digestive imbalances. How do you do that? You have to do the testing. We do the genetic. You need to find the susceptibility. You do the blood, extra and intracellular. You do the urine and the stool. That allows you to baseline where you are. Step number 2, you correct the nutritional deficiencies through supplementation and through food, right? And then number 3, you make sure you're managing the detoxification. So really, it's a 3-step process. And then over time, and then you be patient. Now I know we instruct that in American
Yeah, we
schools,
don't do
right?
that.
The word patience, you know, even in traffic, it's like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
you're not going to heaven yet.
Even the
Slow
traffic and the
down.
rain.
Right. Be patient. It takes time. I know that's why we love medication, because it works immediately.
Yeah.
But all medications are blocking or enabling. They are not allowing homeostasis.
Yeah.
And the body would naturally heal itself. And that is really at the core of the teaching around autism. Okay, do we have questions before we go into it? Yeah, go ahead.
I know you mentioned that a big part of like what you're talking about is like healing like the GI tract and
Yeah.
balancing. I wanted to ask about like children eating dairy products. Like I wonder if that affects their GI, because I know a lot of kids eat like mac and cheese.
Well, that's the challenge, right? It's a lot of things. And so you have to first do the baseline test and find what's really going on, because they say every autistic child is really different. So you really need to go at that micro level to really find out what's actually going on with the child, and then the intervention is then along those findings, right? But basically, you actually want to correct the nutrition. As we all know, if you're eating mac and cheese, there's something wrong. That's bullshit food, right? Just straight up.
So good.
Right? I know, it is really good, but that's also a memory issue. You need to just change the memory,
One thing,
isn't it?
Yeah, well, how do you?
Because I come from
how do you
Africa and I
teach a
don't care
child?
about mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not in my memory.
it's not
Yes.
right.
It's not right.
But most of the autism books or the recommendations, it's of course it's different individually, but generally they recommend gluten-free and at
Yes.
least dairy-free diets.
Gluten-free.
They're not specific whether it's the protein or the
And
fat.
they will get-
And most of the autistic parents I know, they quickly give up on doctors and they do their own thing very
Yes.
quickly.
And that's what's happening. A lot of patients, a lot of parents are giving up because the interventions are not working.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that, even like with chronic illness and everything we're going to talk about, is that you're trying to change a system that's been distressed for a long time.
Yeah.
And you have to be patient, because the body to repair now is the body has this conductor that makes a list of the priorities of what we're going to fix first.
Yeah.
And it's not based on you, it's based on that conductor.
Yeah, it is.
You understand? It's going to say, okay, the first thing we need to fix is that they're not sleeping well. You know, most people don't sleep well. And they think it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's fundamental to the body fixing itself that you sleep well. Second thing, most people don't drink enough water. Right? So they are very acidic. And it is fundamental that the body has enough water. You know, just some basic stuff that we do. And most people don't exercise because they think they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just looking at just standard things. And if we are not moving, we'll die.
I like your
Right.
main point though, because I've seen people do the testing and say, oh, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. So they don't eat this and they don't eat that, and then they have diarrhea. So I say, oh, the guy was wrong.
Oh,
So I'm going back to the way I used to do it.
Exactly. So people give up, and
Yeah.
that's why I say it has to be sustained.
Yeah,
And there is nothing like organic now. You have to really be very careful
yeah.
because the soil we are planting in also is toxic.
Yeah, and I've talked to farmers. I went out there and said organic farming, and I said, is everybody around here organic? He says, well, they call it organic, and they don't spray when the instructors are here.
Oh.
That doesn't mean they can spray when they're not there.
My grandfather's rule was that if you don't see earthworms, it is not organic.
That's a good way. That works.
Mm-hmm. The presence of earthworms tells you that it's organic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what my grandfather used to
That
say.
works. That works.
Yeah, because anything that will kill the earthworms is going to kill us,
And
ultimately.
it
Oh,
kills
yeah,
them for
yeah.
a long time, so it takes a while for the worms to come back. It does.
Okay, thank you guys. So I'm going to talk now about, hello, you just joined us. We're talking about autism. Do you guys speak English? I speak Chinese. Should I conduct this in Chinese? Are you Chinese? Oh, you speak English. Okay, that's good. You understand what I said. Isn't that a trick? You English to them and they're looking at you, then you know they don't speak English, right? Okay, so we want to talk about weight loss. It is really tied. It is obesity. And first of all, while we are doing this class, any of you who wants to do our body composition analysis, they will take you to the back there. It's like 5 minutes, and it will give you a report, and it's very, very a good report for you to run.
Yeah,
I do.
Yes, you should do it.
you should.
Yeah, so you just follow Vincent back
Especially,
there.
especially if you're starting a diet program or ending one.
Yeah.
If I need to.
Yes, you need to.
Yeah, I mean, but all of you should do it. It is good for you to do it.
We'll tell you what he said.
Okay, and Jennifer also. Yeah. No, they'll call you when.
Hey, we're all gonna leave.
No, yeah, they'll come and get you one by one.
You need a side question.
Well, you could go watch if you want to watch, but that's fine. So, your guys are here for weight loss. Is that what you want to talk about?
Talk about allergies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you done your body composition with us before? No, you haven't? Okay.
No, most of them don't.
They don't.
No.
So, I'm going to give you this
They
too.
put it in my blood. They don't put it in your family. He said, oh, of course it does.
No, not everybody in the family has asthma. Glutathione?
Okay, hold on. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So, a couple of things on the weight loss.
Because it causes severe diarrhea and all that stuff from that.
Do you feel like it's a good thing not to eat even if you have diarrhea?
No. You probably have a problem with
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so
We're going to talk about
They
this
use
first.
something as parents and all.
Yeah.
But they're all going to this other things.
Yeah. Well, see, what he's talking about is based on research. There's a lot of people that give advice that don't know what they're talking about.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
start on this diagram. So you see I have the apple shape, right? I'm a man, I have the apple shape. So I have the metabolic syndrome.
Isn't that a pear?
You're not very appley.
Well, but no, because I've been working on it.
Oh, good.
And then
I'm an apple.
the women have the pear shape.
There you go.
You see that?
Yes.
And that is really a sign of the metabolic syndrome. I mean, you're thinking, why are we talking about this? This is a weight loss class. But I thought we should start with the metabolic syndrome. Okay? And it's really at the core, if you look at that line, it's really at the core of it is about obesity.
Yeah.
It's about weight. Right? And then these are the consequences of, you see, obesity is a sign of the metabolic syndrome, which is a chronic illness, or the beginnings of it. And it leads to then complications of it, which are then called diabetes, heart disease, and all those things. At the center of it is the metabolic syndrome. And it starts with inflammation and obesity. That's it. And the inflammation comes from the GI, and the obesity from our insulin resistance. Is that making sense? You guys get that? So when you are tired and you drink coffee every day and you don't have the ability to read, that's a problem. Then the other woman was showing me the browning of her neck and armpits. The color begins to change. That is a sign. And then there is this non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That means it didn't come from you drinking too much, but you have fatty liver. Big problem. That's what we're talking about, the glutathione and all of that. High blood pressure, right? You'll see Asian people very slim with high blood pressure. You'll be like, why? They have metabolic syndrome just shown in a different way, right? Then a lot of young women have PCOS, which is the polycystic ovarian syndrome, where they have very painful menstruation and just very hormonal challenges. And sometimes they can get pregnant. Sorry?
They can be very young sometimes with that.
Yeah, they can be even 18, 19, 20.
I've seen 14-year-olds with it.
Yeah, with PCOS. Okay?
They're miserable.
And then men also begin to have erectile dysfunction, which is a really big issue now, because almost 40, 50, 60% of men above 40 have ED. So the metabolic syndrome is diagnosed when at least 3 of the following signs are present. Okay? Are we good?
At least 3 of the 4?
Yeah, 3 of the following. Yeah, at least 3 of the following.
Okay.
Right? So any of those 3.
Yeah,
All right.
practitioners do that a lot.
But most people have it.
Yeah, they'll take blood pressure, they'll take obesity on the waist, and they'll take, what do they
Glucose or
take? Oh yeah, anything, any diabetes.
exactly.
You get those 3, then they're done.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next slide, which is on the next page. So how do you get to a great place? There are things that you need to decrease on the right-hand side. You know, people say they have cravings.
Yeah.
You have to crave only good things. No mac and cheese cravings. If you have that, that is bad for you.
I know, it's hard to believe.
I don't have it in my memory.
Oh, you should.
There is,
You mean it hurt every
yeah,
day?
there is no programming,
Yeah.
Dr. Walsh. You see that? No programming here.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's strange when I go to like a Korean or a Vietnamese restaurant.
Yeah.
The children are sitting at the high table, 2, 3 years old, eating pho,
Yeah.
sitting in their chairs quietly.
That's true.
Korean kids, 2, 3 years old, eating kimchi. American kids, what are they eating in the restaurant? They're drinking soda, eating mac and cheese,
And hot dogs.
And run around.
and then we wonder why they're all sick and they can't pay attention.
They talk so much.
Yeah, running around the
They run
restaurant
around.
screaming, right? Do you get that? So then a dependence on processed or convenience food, high grocery bills, time required to exercise. How many people here exercise every day? Hands up. Dr. Walsh?
I do.
Yeah, you do. Hello.
No exercise there.
Is there a problem in China about exercise? Did Xi Jinping say you should not exercise? Then hormonal swings and side effects. Most young women today have cramps, have problems with their period. And that's a problem. There's something wrong with your diet. And then they're stressed, and then they have anxiety about weight loss, right? You know how the perfect woman in America, do we know what the perfect woman in America looks like? I mean, we don't know. So then why are we all stressed about it?
I don't
They're
think
not
there is
American.
perfect.
They're also the
Then why are we all stressed about it?
I haven't found the perfect man, so I don't think there's a perfect woman. There's no such thing.
sorry, these older women are infecting your brain with some bad thoughts.
Yeah, don't look it up.
Yeah.
Right, there's no actually there are perfect men.
They're
We just have jailed them. They're all locked up. They have no cravings. Okay, what are the good things that you need to be doing? Confidence in your body. You know, we all are built biochemically different. There's a mutation about what they call satiety, which is about how do you know you've eaten enough?
Yeah.
Right? Satisfaction. And the Japanese, somebody said you should eat at 60%. The Japanese say you should eat at 80%. How do you know you are at 80%?
Throw up.
That is 120.
Yeah.
How do you know you're at 80%?
You're full?
You're satisfied.
No,
Water?
no,
Satisfied?
no. Because if your memory of satisfaction is throwing off, then 80% is not. That is when you want to take that next spoon and your brain says, I think you're fine.
Like a craving?
No, no, it's not there. There is a point when you're eating and your body says, I think we have enough. But you're like, I like the taste of this.
One dessert.
Yeah.
One more spoon.
You know, we all have that indicator, right?
Yeah.
You get to that point and you know, this is enough, but you're like, I like that beef. Let me have another bite. Now we're going beyond 80%. Do you get that? Like when you're eating food, but you know our mothers were part of the problem. They say, finish your plate.
Yeah.
So you get to 80% and then your mother looks at you. Even now when you're eating in the restaurant, you still think your mother is watching.
My grandmother was okay with it. My grandmother taught my parents that you have to leave at least room for one more bite, or you're overdoing it.
Correct.
So always leave room for one more.
And so people use the arm and things now to measure food,
Yeah.
right? Like carbohydrates should not be more than that size,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And huh?
A day?
No, for each meal.
each day?
For
Each
each
time?
meal. But that's if you're balanced.
Yeah.
For people who want a weight loss, it actually has to be smaller,
Yeah.
right? Because we talk about, Martha? Because we talk about calories and nutrients. So I wanted to talk about calories and nutrients. It's below there, down there, thank you. So when we eat, so that's food, right? Food.
Right.
Food gives us calories and nutrients. So when you're hungry, what do you think your body is asking for?
Nutrient.
Wrong answer.
You say good try.
Good try. Your body is asking for that when you're hungry. The body knows what it needs. Why does the body not really need ask for calories?
Calories don't.
No. Why doesn't the body hungry for calories? There is a time when it is, but why is it not normally hungry for calories?
It wants the nutrients.
No, because it has an alternative source for energy. The body always has fat. It has an alternative source. Do you see the point? It has an alternative source, right? Carb or fat. And so typically the body is not, except if you're exercising, like you're running a marathon, it's gonna ask for that. And that's why you eat like pasta for a week before your marathon. You build up the caloric requirement for that depletion that's gonna happen during the marathon. Or you, before tennis sometimes, if I'm gonna play 3 sets, I prepare for that, right? Plus the hydration. But typically, this is what the body is looking for. And our guidance from that comes from the RDA. So weight loss is not really about losing weight. It's really about balancing your nutritional architecture. That's at the core of it. And so what do? So most people, and we're going to look at this, if you already have the metabolic syndrome,
Yeah.
then you really need to reduce your calories and increase your nutrients. That's really at the core of it. And what's the number one thing we recommend? Zero sugar. Zero.
Yeah.
Why do we all like sugar?
Tastes good.
There's something deeper than just tastes good.
Yeah.
Actually, the most of our tongue, the largest area is the sweet area. Yes. So even the baby who's just been born, you put little sugar,
Yeah.
they recognize it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's genetic. It's deep in our architecture, and now I'm saying ignore it. Okay? That's why for those of us who grew up in Africa where we didn't have sugar, you had to learn to eat food that was not sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we eat, my mother used to make this soup called bitter leaf soup to clean your gut. It was, the leaf was actually bitter. And we'll eat that once a week and it was disgusting. How many people here do castor oil once a week? You did it?
No.
You missed some fun. If you take castor oil once a week, it actually cleans your gut out. It's very good for you. You should give your children
Cod liver oil.
cod liver
How
oil.
much? Tablespoon?
Yeah, 2 or 3 tablespoons. And actually, omega-3 is very good for you, castor oil. Very, very good for you. Yeah, and my grandmother used to make us drink it. Anyway, so sugar gone. Number 2, Dr. E was talking about gluten. So that's wheat. At the end of this, we'll discuss the reports you just did. So that's the second thing that you need to give up. Why do you need to give this up? Because of your GI. You want to clean your GI. And once you clean your GI, the allergies and all of those things are going to go away. Right? Number 3, see, I'm still with this carbohydrate. And when I say sugar, even chocolate, this is 0.
Dark chocolate?
Yeah.
Are you sure that's right?
You okay with
72%?
with macaroni and cheese and no chocolate?
You do not need it.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but
body
what?
needs it. No, it doesn't.
No, does it?
It says eat chocolate. Eat chocolate.
Hot cocoa.
Yeah, hot cocoa. Water cocoa?
Making bargaining.
You see, I love how you guys stand in front of your refrigerators and you start bargaining with yourselves.
Yeah.
At least a spoon of chocolate will not hurt. Dr. Walsh said so.
True. 72%.
Obviously, if you don't add any sugar, if it's actually Swiss chocolate with no added sugar or dairy, that's okay. You need to find that kind of chocolate.
Lilies.
All right. Number 3, pasta.
Oh.
Spot with butter.
Number 4, when I get to rice, I'm like, okay,
Rice?
a bit,
The Asian.
Oh,
a bit.
Like a little bit of
oh my
chocolate.
God. What about brown rice? Yeah.
A few spoons, and you have to chew 32 times.
There's nothing left in my diet to eat. You can tell us what.
But you see, you'll be eating calories, not nutrients. You see that? What do you think? Good. Yeah, but you eat bread. Do you eat pasta? Do you eat sugar? A lot.
Chocolate? Do you eat chocolate?
Actually, I'm going to add something here. No soda.
Oh.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, that one.
There you go.
No soda. You drink soda?
Actually, or colored drinks, they say.
No colored
Colored
drinks.
drinks, yeah, they say colored.
Including soju that has sweet soju or sweet sake. No.
No sake.
No cocktails
Yeah.
because they're all very sweet.
So wine's okay?
Yes.
You're such a fun lady.
Wine is okay.
More Moscato.
Yeah.
Wine is okay, but not 10 glasses.
Okay.
Actually, whiskey is better.
Oh, great.
Oh.
Great.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Always water. Yes, great. Something.
The original soju, yes, because I drink that. And it's from rice. Yeah. Is that making sense, guys? So imagine if you just took all of this away. Or if you made this like my grandmother did, you ate it only on Sunday. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
You ate it only on Sunday. It's not going to kill you, right?
Right.
You could say, I'm going to have this a little on Sunday. All right?
During Lent.
Okay, so that's the first point. Let's look at the second point.
That's the first one.
Yeah.
Jeez.
The second point is when you eat. So there are 3 times, right? There's morning, afternoon, evening, and then the snacks, right? So there are 2 things we want to look at here. There's one called intermittent fasting, where you eat your final meal around 7 p.m. and you don't eat till lunch the next day, which gives you 16 hours of no food. They call it intermittent fasting.
Yes, heard that.
So you eat lunch, snack, dinner, and nothing else except water until lunch the next day. It's actually good for the body because it allows the digestive system to actually be very operational. So that's one strategy.
Even children is available.
Why not? Yes. So what do? I here take my medical food. Here, you can take your medical food or your medicines and drink a lot of water, but any caloric something, you can take nutrients, but calories should really be at lunchtime. Because it then gives the body enough activity, right? So there should be no eating after 7 p.m. There should be no eating, just drinking.
The interesting thing is, you're talking about weight loss, but I know a bunch of bodybuilders who are trying to bulk up who do the same diet.
Yeah. So that's one. Or let's talk about ketogenic, which is really the therapy for metabolic syndrome. So that's ketogenic diet. That's what they call it. And really, it's very low carb, about 10% carb, which mostly you should get from fruit and vegetables, and the rest is protein and fat. That's my preferred diet. You need a lot of fat because you're trying to change your metabolism to do fat metabolism rather than carbohydrate metabolism, which is a much cleaner metabolism for producing energy.
Your body likes it.
Sorry?
Your body likes it.
Yeah, the body actually likes it. They use this to cure epilepsy. It cures diabetes. Cures Alzheimer's. Cures autism. Yes. It reverses, really brings back cognitive function. The research is out there. You get on this ketogenic diet, actually some people go 0 there and just fruits and vegetables and the rest that, and it reverses your overall metabolism. That doesn't mean so when we talk about fat here, it needs to be the right fats and the right kind of proteins. Okay? So it's very, very important. Or you go with the modified Mediterranean for people who are okay, who don't have any specific illnesses. You go to modified Mediterranean, where there's a lot more carbohydrates.
Yeah.
But one of the challenges that we even have, like when I ran my tests, is that even fruits that are high in sugar are not good for people who have the metabolic syndrome, like apples, like bananas, like oranges,
Yeah.
like pineapples. The sugar content in them is too high for people who already have that metabolic syndrome. You understand? So even though it's good for you, it actually doesn't work out good. Your ability to manage your insulin resistance